It is the 15th of April, 1990. The man you see in this footage is called Tibor Nagy. Today, once again, he will welcome the people who have been his followers for years. A very special anniversary is being prepared for here at the Crossroads at Grand Central. And the story of how Tibor Nagy comes to be celebrating it is one of the strangest ever to befall a man. Tibor Nagy's real story started 36 years ago on the 15th of April, 1954, the day of his 40th birthday. Tibor, his wife Helene, and their daughter Esther, then 12 years old, set off in their car for Woolworth, where Helene's sister lives. There are two possible routes from Cape Town to Woolworth: Route 27, just open to traffic, and Route 4, the old road, now empty of heavy vehicles. It is here, 25 miles out, that the Nagy's whole life will reach a turning point. It was about 10:15, Tibor would later declare, when a huge shadow stopped right above us and brought the car to a standstill. Nothing would work. My wife screamed. My daughter started to cry. I told them not to be afraid. And then it seemed like night fell all round us. I don't know how much later, when I opened my eyes, we were all in the car, and the car was in a round white room which was vibrating gently. I got out of the car, and suddenly, right in front of me, I saw the moon coming at me. So I took out my camera, which I always take with me when we have little get-togethers, and I filmed. I was shaking with fear. Good God, was I frightened.
Abban a pillanatban a lányom fölébredt. Megpróbáltam megmagyarázni neki, hogy repülő csésze üveg szól minket. Ugyanekkor egy férfi lépett be a szobába.
At the same moment, my daughter woke up, and I had to explain to her that I believe we have been picked up by a flying saucer. At the same second, a man stepped into the room.
Man, what was he like? Ugyanúgy nézett ki, mint mi, kivéve sisak volt a fején.
He seemed like us, but he was wearing a helmet on his head, and I couldn't see his face. He didn't say anything, but we understood that we needn't be afraid, and that I could film whatever I saw, but not the inside of the ship. I remember perfectly saying, "Yes, sir," and my daughter yelling, "We're higher than the moon." I watched and filmed. I filmed till I was out of film, and then I felt like we were falling. When I opened my eyes, my wife and my daughter were at the back of the car, and we were a few meters away from a road we didn't know. And I told my wife and my daughter, "God wants to test us. We must be brave." 36 years later, Tibor Nagy has taken his car back to the same place. All around him, every detail has been recreated, down to the field which has been cut the same way, and his words remain the same.
When I opened my eyes, my wife and my daughter were at the back of the car. And we were a few meters apart, away from the road we didn't know really. And I told my wife and my daughter, God wants to put us to test. We must be courageous.
No one believed Tibor Nagy's story. Those of us who remember the period will know that scarcely a day went by without some Ohio farmer or fisherman from San Francisco seeing a flying saucer. However, what makes the Nagy affair different is that he is the first to have managed to bring back proof. And that proof is his film, which you are going to see in a few moments. He may have convinced us, but not the investigators. Their surprise soon gave way to mistrust. And Tibor is taken for a hoaxer who just wanted to get himself talked about. It's said that he is the owner of his garage thanks to an opportune marriage. Within a few weeks, things start to go downhill for the Nagy family. Everyone is waiting for Tibor to own up and confess that the whole thing had been staged. Tibor refuses to do so, saying that he'll bring further proofs. If only the ones who had once carried him off would come again, he would be sure to recognize them and so be able to prove that he, Tibor Nagy, is not a liar. In February of 1955, the entire Nagy family settles in this tiny garage facing the Crossroads at Grand Central. 4 years later, his wife contracts pleurisy, which gets the better of her. His daughter goes back to live in Woolworth, where she will get married before going off to live in Canada so as never to see her father again. Ever since that day in 1954, Tibor waits in the place where they set him down. Over the years, the village has grown in population, but there is still an exclusion zone around his garage. His followers have named him the Madman of the Crossroads, but not in a derogatory way. On the contrary, Tibor is as respected as a man who has met God in person. And it is as if one were setting foot in a shrine on that day when, in remembrance of all his trials, he shows his film.
It was April 15. That day, Helen, my wife, and Esther, our daughter, and myself, we should have gone to visit Aunt Martha in Woolworth. That was my 40th birthday. And it became dark. And when I opened my eyes, I saw the moon, like you are seeing it there. And then we have flown over it. And I woke up. I thought being on Earth, but I was in hell.
The publicity given by the press to this affair was a kind of protection for Tibor Nagy. Others were less fortunate. 2 years later, the inhabitants of this hamlet, situated 2 miles from the spot where Tibor had been carried off, and about which nothing was ever asked during the investigation, were evacuated, and sometime later the houses were burned to the ground and the road that led to them completely obliterated. Why did they want so badly to wipe out all trace of the Nagy affair?